the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series could be in some serious trouble. So as you might know, Diary of a Wimpy Kid is one of the most popular book series on the planet. But are the new books really as good as the originals? Well, to put it simply and get right to the point, the answer is no. But does that mean that the book series has really fallen off super hard? Well, the first thing you really have to take into consideration when thinking about all this is the fact that in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, Jeff Kinney decided to put Greg in middle school, and even though the series has taken place over the course of 5 school years, Greg has not left middle school, making it kind of a floating timeline where the characters just never age. And a while back, I made a video about how I think it would be better if Greg Heffley actually went to high school, because there would be more interesting stories you could tell with Greg getting his driver's license and graduating and whatnot. But to be clear, I think Jeff Kinney understands what he's doing, and whatever he decides to do for the series is for the better. Because even though I think if you had Greg aging, that would keep a lot of people invested into the series, you do have to take into consideration the fact that the target audience is just generally speaking middle school kids or younger. And so if you want to be more relatable towards them, you're going to want to keep Greg at that age. But the problem that comes when you just keep Greg in middle school is that it's harder to come up with new ideas, and it can just kind of feel repetitive. I mean, the family's already been on like 3 or 4 road trips in the series.
How original.
Although one of the times it was on a plane, so that was a little bit different.
Daring today, aren't we?
But when you really look at the older books in the series, they were very relatable just when it came to the dynamics with the whole family. And I wouldn't necessarily say like the first 10 books were super relatable and then it fell off by the 11th book. It's more so just as the series keeps going along, it's starting to become a little bit less relatable and more unrealistic, where all this crazy stuff is happening. And some crazy stuff did happen in the older books, but it never really went too far in terms of being unrealistic. The best example I could give you is the fact that in some of the more recent books, Manny is like building a house in their backyard. And in another book, he figured out how to use a flare gun, and he drove their camper into a bridge, connecting it to the other side of the bridge that was broken. It was like this vacation place, and it was just absolutely insane. And in the older books, Manny did kind of do some crazy stuff, where he had a yard sale to sell Greg's clothes, and he hacked Greg's NetCritter's account.
He's a menace to the entire city!
But it never really involved anything that was too impossible for a 3-year-old kid to do. You'll even notice in the original Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, they were pretty similar to the books of that time period, where they were just pretty relatable, and occasionally there would be some crazy stuff happening, especially with the dad.
The laughingest laugher that ever laughed!
But when you compare that to the Long Haul movie, which came out more recently, although it came out closer to those movies than right now, that's definitely more similar to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books that are less relatable, where in that movie the Heffleys just go on this crazy adventure that's just not realistic in the slightest, and you have that whole subplot of Greg becoming an internet meme, which typically doesn't happen to most people. And so just in a lot of the recent books, especially the vacation one, it just kind of turns into all these sorts of wacky adventures. And even at the school, some crazy stuff has been happening recently, like in No Brainer, where people were bringing pickaxes in the school and digging through the walls. And then there became the whole backstory of Larry Mack, who the school is named after. The lore actually became crazy. I swear I've said the word crazy like 20 times in this video so far. And so just to put it simply, as the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series keeps going along, for the most part it's becoming less relatable, but still each year I'm optimistic for the new book. And even though the quality overall has dropped, the original books were so good that it doesn't mean that the new one's bad, it just means they're not as good as the originals. They're still always worth reading. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the newer Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, and if you think this trend is going to ever end. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.